Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Power BI and Microsoft Dynamics GP. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin. Everyone is in mute, so if you have questions, you can either raise your hand or you can put them in the GoToWebinar question box. We'll answer questions throughout the presentation and then also at the end of the presentation to follow up. We have two presenters today from Socius. We have Terry Ginley and then Neil Donahue. They'll both be presenting today. So Terry, we are ready to transition.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lindsay. Well, thanks for joining our webinar today, Power BI as it connects to Dynamics GP. As Lindsay mentioned, I'm Terry Ginley. I'm the Director of Analytics for Socius. We also have Neil Donahue with us, who's a BI consultant that focuses exclusively on Power BI and connecting to different types of data. I won't spend too much time talking about Socius. I think everybody is familiar who we are and as your partner, but we do a couple things to highlight is that we do have a strong analytics and BI practice that we've had for about 5 years here at Socius, and basically we're excited to show you a little bit about how Power BI with some of the Socius analytics can hopefully give you better visibility into your business. So today our agenda, we'll talk about why business intelligence, some of the key advantages of Power BI. We'll talk about pricing because it's dramatically different than you've seen probably with most business intelligence products. Neil will go through about 20 minutes of training on the product, kind of very hands-on. And so we'll go through that. And then the next area we'll do is talk a little bit about some of the Socius analytics solutions that are available. And then hopefully we'll have about 10 minutes for questions at the end. So please note those and we're ready to go. So kind of the evolution of where we are with business intelligence today. The first wave was very technical. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, you really had to have programmers to get a lot of the reporting and things done. Today, that's changed a lot. In the second wave of BI back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, basically you had self-service BI, but it still was more of an analyst that was understood the business, but also understood the technical side that was able to develop that. As you'll see today, the third wave of business intelligence, we're able to provide end users with real tools for them to analyze and change the way they look at their data in their systems. So some of the common challenges with business intelligence in any system, whether it's your GP database or any source system or operational, is really getting an end-to-end view of your data. Basically a complete picture of the business. It could be a financial report or an operational report, but the two may or may not tie together. Having multiple sources of data. We're seeing our clients today are now able to benefit from pulling together not just GP data, but source system data, billing data, payroll data from different systems and end up in one place. And really getting the right data in front of the right users. I think that's an important part that sometimes gets missed with, just sometimes it's the executives in the business that are getting it and some of the operational people. Or it could be the other way around where they're not getting that data as well. So here's the Socius view of business intelligence. It really needs to be much more than reporting. Reporting is important, but it can be just one snapshot view of the data. It's really not about the best, latest technologies, even though we want to work with the things that are the fastest and run the best, but it's really about ease of use and adoption. That's really key to any business intelligence project. Really what we try to do is take organizations and get them from a reporting standpoint. What we've been fortunate to do with our clients in the last few years is getting them to a learning organization where they're kind of doing one project and saying, well, could we do this over here? Well, why aren't we doing it over here? That's when we know we've been successful with our clients. Really, we try to quit doing static views of data, but also some predictive capabilities and saying, what will happen? If this many people enter the ballpark, how many hot dogs do I need to thaw out based on the history from the last 3 promotions we've done? So a very operational impact, but can help save the organization money. And as we mentioned, self-service and right time and right place for the data. So some of the key differentiators we're going to talk about with the Power BI we're going to be showing today here. We have pre-built dashboards that can go against on-premise or SaaS solutions. real-time dashboard updates, basically can be as live as every 15 minutes if you'd like. Neil will show a little bit about a natural language query, where he's actually going to ask questions of his data. I won't say any more on that. I'll let Neil show that here during our call. And then basically we'll talk about the ability to integrate fast deployments into other existing systems that in the past, those were large projects that never really got your data until it was halfway through. We're going to show you how you can very quickly get access to your data. So the great thing about Power BI basically is we can get you up and running and just literally download it in a matter of 60 seconds and it'll be on your machine. We'll talk some of the pre-built content packs. So not you have to start from scratch and build your dashboards and visuals. We'll show you how you can actually get some of those live. Some of the key things to point out are drill down to your underlying reports. We'll show you some ways to build that. And even if you don't have drill downs, we'll show you how to put those in there. And then we'll talk a little bit about the automatic data refresh from your GP data to your dashboards. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I want to have Neil show you some live GP data, some of our customer examples, our analytics solutions. But the key here is that it's a very visual solution. You can see here in the middle in the kind of a waterfall chart, you can see different views of how things are trending. You can see maps, but I'll let Neil show you that with some of the live GP data in the system. The nice thing about Power BI is it's basically you can stay connected with any device. So basically any iOS or Android device, basically you can resize these dashboards very quickly to basically have them on your and take them with you on your iPad, your any of your phones with you, and then you can zoom in and zoom out the visualizations. The nice thing is they self-size themselves. So it basically knows that you're creating that dashboard for a phone, so you don't get this ugly scrolling. We've all been to those websites where it's so small you can't read it. It actually resizes that data directly for you. You can see on the right side over here, this is actually a live example where this is one of our clients' phones where they're a distributor, and what they care about is they call it TAT, which is turnaround time. So if they're not getting orders out the door, and there's a threshold, they said, above 12 and a half minutes to 12 minutes, they want to know about it. So literally you can basically set these data alert rules here, and it'll actually tell you when a return, for example, for an item over $10,000 comes in. I want to be alerted on my phone so I can go down and see, should it be returned, is it damaged, or should we refuse to return it back? So those kinds of things, think about in your business, how can you quickly create alerts to understand what's going on. I'm going to let Neil show this a little bit further, but we're basically you can ask questions of your data. You can see on the right side over here, we're trying to do an analysis of some of your sales. And you can see this literally in this browser, we just typed sales by city. This map wasn't here before, this wasn't pre-built. It knows that sales and city, and it takes the city name or the zip code, it'll actually populate this. So Neil will show you some further ones where you can actually, we call it interrogate your data to ask questions that people may not have thought of. Neil will show a little bit about how to collaborate with the dashboards, very much a sharing solution. I have this dashboard, I want to share it out with my 4 Western region salespeople. I can share that out. I can then pull it back, make changes to it, then republish. Neil will go into a lot of detail in those areas. We talk about the way to refresh your data. It's not a matter of importing or doing a new data extract or a smart list, for example, where you're using SQL or queries to pull down data. What we're able to do is actually create, live refreshes, whether it's nightly, daily, whatever the case may be, to pull that into the system. We also, in our dashboards, we always put in there, when was the last time it was updated? So you can see maybe it didn't get updated last night. You can see that coming forward so that you know that maybe there's an issue with the data pulling in. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but I think the key message here is, you can basically consolidate data from a range of sources. And in this case, we've worked with probably 2/3 of the data sources that are on this page. Some of the ones we work with, obviously Dynamics GP for this audience, Dynamics CRM, any SQL Server, Sybase, Teradata, Oracle, Excel files. And you can even go out there to web pages and actually go out and scrape data off the web very easily. So basically we've kind of made it an unlimited number of data sources that can be pulled into Power BI fairly easily. So most of the time we talk about these solutions, we don't talk about price, or you see maybe the different, they talk to it and say, hey, contact us, let us know. But we think it's really important to talk about the pricing for Power BI, just because it is a game changer for Microsoft over the last couple of years in the industry. So there is a free version of Power BI. So basically the dashboards, things you see here today, there is, but there's certain limitations, as you expect with anything that's free. There's certain, you can see kind of what it can do, some of the data limits, different things. You also can't collaborate and share with other folks. So really the free version becomes, think of it as personal business intelligence, not really business, not really used for an entity. But with that said, the pro version, which has all the features and functionalities of the entire product, this is the only fee for the Microsoft component, is $9 per user per month. Compared to a lot of other solutions in the market, say, for example, like you think of something like Domo, or you think of other dashboarding solutions, like Tableau, for example. Great tools, been out there a long time, but they can cost $1,000 a user a month, or sorry, per year. Plus there's a server component. So it is definitely a game changer where Microsoft is really trying to democratize, the use of data across the organizations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Neil, and he's going to give us about a 25-minute demo of the solution that we built, and give you a little training on how easy it is to use, and the things we've learned about the solution going forward. So thanks, Neil. It's all yours.
Thank you, Jay. So sharing my screen now. So you should all see a Power BI desktop. Okay, so if you haven't seen Power BI before, then this is going to be a really good intro. And if you have seen it before, maybe this will just be a good refresher. So what I want to start with is the understanding that Power BI desktop, Power BI has two different versions you can think of. You can think of Power BI desktop, which is what you're seeing on my screen right now. And then you can also think of powerbi.com. So they work together, but they serve different purposes, and we'll go through that right now. But first, I want to start with a very general intro to Power BI desktop, and that's what you're seeing here. So you'll see here is the canvas, and that's where you'll actually create visuals. It's a very drag and drop, very user-friendly way to make these visuals, and I will show you in a minute how we do that. On the right here, you'll see your visualizations that you can choose from. You'll see these three dots, and that actually you can import different visuals. So what you can do is go to the Microsoft Office and import new visuals that they're making all the time. There's dozens more visuals that you don't see here that you can import for your use in your dashboard. When you select a visual, you'll see your the values in that visual right here, as well as if you scroll down, you will see your filters for that visual, the page, and the report. So filtering on the report is, again, it's very drag and drop, very user friendly. And then on the right, you'll see I searched something, but you'll see all your tables. You can expand those, and you'll see each field within that table. And then again, on the top, you'll see lots of functions. So a lot of the functions you'll see up here are also within the visual. And then on each visual, you will see that there's these three dots on the top right. And that is a quick way to sort. So you can see I can sort by dollar sold. I can sort alphabetically by the salesperson. But what you'll also see is this export data. And let's say I want to export this data, send it around maybe to users who don't have Power BI, or I want to just get that, the real granular level in an Excel sheet. I can simply hit export data and export the underlying data of this visual to an Excel sheet for personal use. You'll also see that some of these have these arrows on the top, and that is the drill down function, which we'll get into a little bit more in a minute. There's also a few different views. So this is, if you come to the left here, you'll see this is the report view. This is the visual view. You can also see the data at the most granular level, as well as the relationship view to make sure that your relationships between tables are working properly. So as I go through this desktop, I want you to think of the desktop version sort of as the builder of the version. Any sort of data model work, or if you're going to build out a dashboard. Like Terry said, we can have multiple data sources and combine them into one dashboard. You do most of that work within desktop. So once you have some basic visuals go out, and I won't go too much into the data model side, but once you have some basic visuals built out, there's a lot of different ways you can interact with these dashboards. So the first and easiest way would be these slicers you see right here. And I made a year slicer, but you can make this off things like salesperson, item description, territory, any value that you want to slice your data on. You can simply drag and drop and create a slicer. And just like that, you'll be able to come over, click, and reshape the data on that page with just one click. We'll go back to 2017. Another way that you can interact with these visuals is simply selecting a bar or a circle. So almost every visual is actually interactive, and it can actually work as a slicer. So you see up here, I have dollar amount sold by salesperson. Well, if I just wanted to find out a little bit more about Greg E, I could simply select his bar, and you'll see that everything else on the page actually redraws to Greg E's data. And I can select it again, and now I have everyone's data, an average of everyone's data. So Power BI is very interactive, very easy to use, very intuitive for end users. And again, every other visual, so things like this, if I want to find out a little bit more about Aaron Fitz, I can find that out too. And as I select Aaron Fitz there, you'll see the way it cross-highlighted was, here you're going to see things are grayed out. So Greg E actually has no sales for Aaron Fitz. So you see his bar, but it's actually grayed out. Well, we can change those interactions. So if we come up to format, hit edit interactions, you'll see on these tops, we're going to see a little do not filter or a filter. So we'll have a few different options depending on the visual. But what this is saying is, if I select something in this visual, how does it interact with every other visual on the page? So you can get a very customizable experience when you're selecting things. And let's say, for instance, I want this to not just be a section or a highlight, like they call it. I want it to be a filter. Well, now it's going to get rid of any salesperson who doesn't actually sell to Aaron Fitz. So depending on how you want to see that data presented to you, you can tell Power BI how to select that. Or maybe I don't want it to filter at all, and you'll see that any interaction with this visual has no effect on this visual. So very customizable experience. Very once that data model is built, it's very easy to make it look and interact the way you want it to. Now, another key way to interact with these visuals is drill downs. So if we look over on the axis, you'll see it says salesperson, but underneath it, it says item description. So what I actually did there is I created layers to the data, and that's going to give me these arrows up here. So once I select this top right arrow and it's highlighted black, that's actually telling Power BI that I don't want to cross filter anymore. I just want to drill into this specific visual. So again, I highlight that down arrow. And now when I select Greg E, it's not going to touch these visuals. It's actually going to show me the items that Greg E sells. So now I can see that Greg is selling phone mail system the most, and I can get a better look into just Greg. There's also inline drilling, or you can just go to the next level with no drill down. So I can see that a claim call that this is the most sold item in our company. And another important note when you're designing these visuals is you'll see tooltips right here on the right. Well, what that allows me to do is when I hover over something, it'll give me that black box. I can actually add as much data in that black box as I want without affecting how the visual looks. So I can drag in other things like dollars sold last year, and you'll see the visual itself doesn't look different, but when I hover over it, I'm getting more data within that black box. So quickly, I just want to show you how we actually build visuals. And like I said earlier, it's very drag and drop. So you'll see we have a dollar sold calculation. So I'm just going to drag that out. And you see it's immediately going to make a bar chart for me. And I want to see that by, very simply, I want to see that by customer. Very basic visual. So you can see that there's a lot of different formatting and different ways we can define this visual. But you can see drag and drop is the easiest way to do that. When we have the visual highlighted, we can come over to the right and you'll see this paintbrush, and that's going to allow me to format things. So if I want to change colors, I can quickly change the color, make it purple, make it, your company's logos, however you want to do that. I can add data labels very quickly, add a title, plot area, things like that, as well as a quick analytics. So if I want to do something like add a constant line, I could add a constant line that would go across. I can add average lines. So very quickly, and we'll do that right now. We'll say I want to add an average line by dollars sold, and you can see now where that average line cutoff is, that dotted blue line. And you can see what's below and above average very quickly. So now, as I'm looking at this visual, you'll see that I have a lot of top sellers, but I also have a lot that are really too small to see. So what I can do is I can do some quick filtering. If I scroll down again, that visual level filters right here. And really, I just want to know who my top 10 customers are. Well, I can come down to customers, expand that out, and you'll see I have basic filtering. So I could, I could say select all and just don't show me that one. I'll have, and then advanced filtering, where if this was a number thing, you could say anything greater than 500, things like that. But what I want to do is do top end. So what I'm going to do is just show me top, and we'll say top 5 customers by that dollars sold. So I'll drag that down, apply filter, and you see just like that, I have my top 5 customers, and that average line is actually showing the average of those 5 customers. And this would be dynamic. So, if you made a large amount of sales to a new customer, that would be refreshed, and that would actually, it would crack your top 5 and make it into this visual. So you can see that customizing these visuals, the way they interact with each other, can be done very quickly in Power BI Desktop to get the exact interaction that you want. So once we have something the way we want, and we'll go back to this page, we can quickly publish it up to powerbi.com with this button right here. And you can publish from desktop, or within powerbi.com, you can pull up a file. Well, all you have to do is hit this button. It'll ask you to authenticate to your account. And once you do that, you'll be able to come up to powerbi.com, which is what you're seeing now. And you'll see that very similar. You'll have your navigation on the left, whether it's your workspace, your shared with me, or your apps. And if I hit edit report right here, you'll see that suddenly it looks a lot like desktop again. So within powerbi.com, you can still build new visuals, create new reports, create new filters and things like that. One of the main differences between Power BI Desktop and powerbi.com is the dashboards that you'll see over here on the right, as well as the sharing capabilities. Sharing and refreshing, sorry. So if we go to a dashboard, so within reports in powerbi.com, that's where we would make any changes. If we want to make new visuals, any kind of formatting changes, create new reports, we'll do that. Down here within the reports, you can hit edit report or back to reading view. And that's where you would make any changes you want. And then you can pin a live page to create a dashboard. So we'll go to a different dashboard, different demo. Oops, looks like this one got broken. We'll come down to this one. So you can see that we can create visuals right here. And then that will allow us to share these out, so we can share out a dashboard directly. And what that allows us to do is when we share a dashboard, that allows us to share a read-only version of that dashboard. So maybe we don't want people making changes or consuming the data in ways we don't want. Well, that will allow us to share just the dashboard. And we can also share out just the report version, or share out the content pack, which allows us to share out the report and the dashboard. So maybe someone who's a little more IT friendly, we can share that out, give them full access to create new reports with the data set and the report. But it's still in a protected way, so that they're allowed to create reports without interfering with another person's reports. So once we have our dashboard created, and we're going to see if it'll let me do this now, we can ask questions of our data in plain English. And this is what Terry was talking about, that natural language querying. So if I ask really quickly, so sales by territory in a pie chart. If I just type that question out, you'll see that it gives me that you'll see it gives me that visual. If I like the visual, I can come up here to the right, pin the visual, and save it for later, and then it'll actually be added to my dashboard, and I can actually share that out with others so that they don't have to necessarily ask this question. But you'll see I can do things like also say, well, show me by sales by, let's try another one. So if we say sales by month. So you can see just like that, type the question to show me sales by month, and right there, it's just gonna give you that visual. And again, I can come up here to the top right, pin that visual, save it for later, and now it's a part of my dashboard moving forward. So once I have my data model set up, I published it up from my desktop. I've created my dashboard. You're going to need to keep that data refreshed. So the way you would do that is you would download the data gateway. It was just a quick, easy download that will sit on your server, and it'll actually communicate between your data sources and PowerBI.com. And you'll actually be able to come down here on the left, hit schedule refresh, and then you'll be able to check your gateway, and then you'll be able to come down here, schedule refresh, and you'll be able to add times to say schedule up to every 30 minutes. So you could have depending on the data source, you could have your dashboard live, or you could have it refreshing every 30 minutes, or you could set it once a day, once a week, however often you need that data refreshed. So it's very flexible with the scheduling. And then once you can set it and forget it, and if there's ever an error, your data gateway goes down, a refresh failed due to a data type error, it'll actually send you an email letting you know what happened, and you can quickly come in and check on the status of your dashboards. And lastly, one of the most important aspects of PowerBI.com is that sharing. So if we come back up to the top, you can hit the three dots on the right. I'll do it here. You can hit the three dots on the right and hit share, and you can quickly share out a dashboard with people in your domain. Or if you want to give people the more full access version, you can come up to settings here on the top right and say create content pack. And then you can enter email addresses, select your entire organization, give it a title, give it a description, even give it a picture, and you actually be able to go in and select from any of your dashboards, reports, or data sets and share them out. And that person will receive a copy of the report and data set. They'll be able to make any changes, customizations they would like to see without interfering with your dashboard. So for instance, I could share out that dashboard I was just showing you with Terry. Terry could go in, make the changes he wants to see without changing my dashboard. And at any time, if I need to take away access, I have those privileges since I own the dashboard. So maybe there's a mistake in the dashboard, or I want to make some changes I want to push out to the company. At any time, I can pull that dashboard back, make those changes, and reshare it with people to give them the new look of the dashboard. And then as far as being a Power BI user, there's a lot of key features, things like row level security. If you have salespeople and you only want them to see sales data that pertains to them, that is something that Power BI can do and we've done in the past. There's preview features like new tables, new color schemes, things like that can be enabled within Power BI Desktop, as well as the first of the month always sees monthly updates. So every month you'll get a little notice to update your desktop, and you'll get new features and functionalities. And it's important to note that these updates won't break your pre-existing dashboard. It'll only add capabilities, things like new colors, new visuals, new calculations that you can do, things that'll make it a lot easier and a lot more user-friendly for your consumers. So that's all I have. If we'd like to switch back to Terry.
Well, thanks, Neil. And just to confirm here, Neil or Lindsay, are you able to see my PowerPoint now?
Yep, you're good.
I can.
Sounds great. Okay, So next thing we want to just talk about for a few minutes here is talk about the Socius Analytics dashboards for Microsoft Dynamics GP. Based on the title of the session today, assuming everybody is using GP, currently the version that we support with it goes all the way back to 2010. We encourage you not to be running 2010 for a bunch of other reasons, but as far as the dashboards we've built, it works well with any of the recent versions of GP. So what we did, because some of the table structures, if anybody in here has talked or worked with the table structures in GP, I would say the politest way to say it is they're not named quite the best. The tables, the field names can be a little encryptic. So what we did is about 2.5 years ago, we actually created 4 dashboards or 4 personas for 4 different types of users that are using GP. So we created 40 visuals. We bundled it together in a content pack, as Neil mentioned, and made that available to our clients. So basically, these 40 visuals we can have up and running in 1 to 3 days, depending on the size of your organization, and you're up and running and have actually visibility into your information that quickly. What we do, and so I'll go through the kind of the details here, and I'll show you a little bit about the dashboards. Basically, what we've done is we've got the dashboards. These are addition to the Power BI license at $9 per user per month. The pricing for our dashboards is $48 a user per month. There's a 3-user minimum. It's a 12-month term, and there is an $895 setup fee. One thing to note, though, analytics users don't need to be GP users. So in the case of you have 10 salespeople and they're not in GP and you probably don't want them in GP, you can actually go ahead and just give them the $48 license per month plus the $9, and they can be live on their iPads, their mobile devices. They can have a full analysis of their data. So just to give you kind of a quick view, the 4 personas or groups inside your company, we've created a finance group. So basically think of it as sales, a lot of gross margin, a lot of profitability calculations, some financials, but also some payables, receivables, and I'll show you that in just a few moments. We have a sales management dashboards. I think you saw Neil highlight a few of those, and I'll show you a few things on that in just a moment. We have operations. So think of the operations as looking at your orders, inventory, those types of areas. So if you're using the inventory modules within GP, we've built it with distributors in mind, although it works with manufacturers and other groups. And then the most recent persona or content pack we came out with is vendors. So literally looking at how are you doing with your vendors? What pricing you're getting on this item from this vendor versus this vendor? So some kind of business questions like that you can ask. How is this vendor shipping on time? And if not, how late are they when they promise 2-day shipping to get it to your location? So some information that we have put together. And again, there's about 40 visuals they have. We find a lot of our clients are a little overwhelmed with all those. We take some of those off the screens. And then as always, there's additional fee for us to customize it because we know every business has their own unique view or how they're maybe using GP. So we typically bundle in anywhere from 20 to, for very large clients, about 100 hours of services, and that's pretty uncommon. But typically we want to put some time in there so you can customize them, or with our assistants, we'll make the data model fit your business better. Today we have about 16 clients running it. We have, I believe, 6 of those are running it right out of the box as it is, and then looking in the future about doing other ones we've customized. But the nice thing is it really gives you an acceleration to be up and running with a solution, not in weeks and months, but in days. So I'm going to just quickly jump over to my dashboards for a quick second here. And just as you saw with Neil here, I'm going to log into my powerbi.com account. And you can see here, I have my recent dashboards I've been to. You can see a whole host of them here. But I'm going to go to my favorites for a minute. So I've pinned these down. And the first one I'm going to go to is the sales operations. So I'm going to go in here, just like Neil did. You can ask questions of your data. You can see the different pieces of information. I've posted these other ones here so I can see those. But so for example, maybe I want to go in here and look more, kind of arrow down, see a little bit of information. It's basically the way they're built is summarizing. You can see here, the first page is very much top X, so top 10 selling items, top 5 sales. You can see here, there's a goal line. So if I want to see my gross margins for different products, I can see the different gross margins for each of those. You can see which ones are falling below my 50% goal. So this goal line was put in here so I could see where I am related to my business goals for all items. So some of the nice tiles over here, you can see, and this is some of the customization we do. It's not really customization, it's just more setup. So for this year, we're approaching $1 million in revenue here, but we have a goal of 719,000. So when we go through the customizations, we'll put the goals in here. Maybe it's a gross margin goal, maybe it's just slightly different. You can see here. So just different pieces of information. The nice thing we can also do from a usability standpoint, let's say, for example, I have 2 clients, 2 of my customers, and I'm really trying to understand, they're in the same industry, but why are they buying different things from me? So let's go in here and let's search on Aaron, Fitz Electric, and I'm going to go in here, and I know they're the same industry as Alton. Let's see, Alton Manufacturing. And you can see how what Neil showed you earlier, he cross-filters this whole dashboard so I can see what their items are, what the average order size is, and why is another company, why are they different? So if I don't want to look at that company, I can undo it. Let's look at advanced technology satellite systems. And we can basically have it go in here and show us the different pieces of information. So this is kind of a sales view. You can see right here, this is a geospatial map. So basically we've gone in here, and this is a live Bing map. You can see I'm actually running my internet connection. And just like we did the visuals before, you can see I go in here and get a little bit more information about this, what am I selling and what regions of the area. We've also created slicers that may or may not exist in your business. So GP might not know the seasons. If you have seasonal promotions or things like that, we can very easily create a date slicer that says, hey, let's see how we're doing for these items in the summer. And you can see how it redraws my visual and different information. So just different ways to interact with the data. And again, if certain ones you don't use, takes us about 20 seconds to pull this one off the screen, different areas. Or set new goals up, so a very rapid approach. I'm going to go back here to my, just for kind of a comparative, not just sales, I'm going to look at the finance dashboard. And you can see some of the items are the same, like net sales is the CFO of the company. I do care about all these items, but also I care about payables, receivables, to see where I'm at. Instead of looking at a hard static report, I want to see my receivables, not monthly. I want to see it on a daily basis and find out different information about those. You can see we've put some additional information in here on, let me get down to the bottom here, some financial information. So don't think of this as a financial statement, but along the lines of your account categories. So if you wanted to go in here and look at this data, you can see different financial metrics. Basically, that's just a very simple trial balance. But again, with this tree slicer here, you might select a few different items and go out there and pull different information into your screen. So different ways and look at different pieces of data. We also have very traditional grid-like data for people that like Excel. We've built that in. So for example, I want to see very detailed gross margin percentages. Let's see how, for example, let's see if Nancy is doing very well in her gross margin percentages. So when I go back and just select Nancy, you can see how, I unclicked there. Let me click back on Nancy. I'll give it a second. I think I'm going a little too fast. When I click on Nancy here, you can see how it reselects that. And then at a monthly level, you'll see here in just a moment, I can see, yeah, she's holding pretty close to the 51% goal, but it looks like the end of the day of the month, she looks like she may have discounted some things to get them out the door. So think of it as different ways for you to ask questions about your data with the dashboards. So the nice thing is we can have these up and running for you very rapidly and for your GP instance. and then customize to fit your business a little bit different. The last area before we get to questions, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of show you kind of a neat way we've worked with, it's 3 of our clients so far, where we've worked with them on understanding non-financial data. So for non-GP data, but we mixed it in. So we've also, if anybody's heard of the concept of gamification. So say, for example, you had a sales team and there's a sales contest for the end of the month or a spiff, who can sell the most of this item. So instead of looking at a report at the end of the month and see who's winning, I want them to see weekly, daily, how they're doing. So I've done this with some volunteer data, but it could be with sales data as well. What Neil's put together here is you can think of a visual that basically gamifies the data. So picture here for a second, if you go here, the different sales data, you can see, the size of the fish is the head lead salesperson. So you can see here, this fish is a little bit smaller. There's a real small one hanging out here in the weeds and again, the question we were asking here was a little bit different. How likely are you to come back and be a volunteer for this organization? So the very large group says, yes, I want to come back. So think of those kinds of games. One other one we recently completed was getting orders out the door. So a monitor like this in their warehouse. So think about that. Which departments can get the orders out on time and not have missed delivery dates going forward. So just a fun way to look at different views of your data. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions and see how we can help.
Alrighty, before we get to questions, we do have a couple poll questions for you. If you would like to receive CPE credit for this webinar, make sure you do participate in all 3 of them. Then those certificates will be passed out within the next day or so once we see who's done them. So the first question, can Power BI combine multiple data sources into one dashboard? Yes or no? All right, it looks like, whoops, it looks like 41% of people voted and it was unanimous yes, and that is correct. Yes, it can. Our next question, does Power BI have the ability to drill down into visuals? And it looks like that was a unanimous yes as well, and that is correct. Yes, they do have the ability to drill down into visuals. And our last one, does Power BI allow for automatic refreshing? Yes or no? All right, and looks like we have some votes in. Again, 100% of people that voted said yes, and that is once again correct. So yes, it does allow for automatic refreshing. So as far as questions, we do have one. Can Power BI be used instead of GP Management Reporter?
Yeah, so great question. It currently today, I would say it's very complementary of Management Reporter. Management Reporter is a good tool for doing financials, mostly financials only, as everybody's probably aware. And what the difference is Power BI is much more of a visual tool, even though you saw that kind of count categories thing you saw me do on the financials. It's really not meant for that. Just because the financial statements have a lot of subtotaling, a lot of logic on debits, credits, different ways you want to print reports, different things like that. So it's not really meant to be a replacement of MR by any stretch. But with that said, what we've got clients doing, because they want their financial statements in the same place, in the same portal, what we're able to do is basically take Management Reporter, still have its doing the hard work of compiling the data, rolling together the a cash flow statement, for example. It's got logic in there to know how to do a cash flow statement. Not that you couldn't do it in Power BI, but it already has that. Then we do is we have it automatically the output type goes to Excel, and it would go to Excel Online via Office 365. Power BI has a new feature, it's almost been a year ago, where they can now pull in every 30 minutes, refresh an Excel file right into a dashboard. So literally, as you're clicking through the tabs you saw us, I would just click on the one tab and there your financials would be there. So hopefully that answers the question. It's not meant to replace that. I think they're very complementary. I do believe in the future they will get closer with that, but today it's more of an ad hoc query versus a financial reporting tool.
Awesome. Well, that is the only question so far. We'll stay on for another minute or two if you guys do have questions. You can also reach out to Terry or Neil if you have questions after this as you start to kind of digest the information. But if there are no other questions, we will give you guys some time back in your day. And thanks again for joining. Have a great day.